I was so skeptical when you told me to listen to this album that came out from Van Halen in 2012. Thought maybe you were trying to prove a point. Bands should never get back together
Oh,
in 2012.
oh yeah,
You
it
know.
was an example of something gone wrong. Alex Huard.
You know, the first thing I said to you when we jumped into here was like, I should go put a hat on. And you're like, no, I love the lettuce. I'm like, really? All right, cool.
It's great. It looks
Cool.
good. Oh,
It's growing
look at that
on me.
move.
It almost looks a little fake. It almost looks like a bit of a rug, doesn't it?
No, God, no.
No?
No,
Okay.
fuck. You could tell. You'd be able to tell.
Yeah, it's not
See,
a rug.
oh, wow, look at you. So, like, how did you come about this new look here?
I had a shower.
You had a shower and you just did this one?
I just didn't do it. Yeah, I just dried my hair and left it, and
Perfect.
you know, it's Thursday night, so I just finished watching our show, you know, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think it. I was like, okay, I got to go up record with Brent, and then I turned the camera on, and I was there, and my hair was like, whew,
Love it.
that just there. Thanks, man. I appreciate
good
the.
luck.
Okay.
Good luck.
Usually I
It's
spend
very,
a lot of time putting product in it, so maybe I'll stop.
it's very 80s Brat Pack.
Okay, explain.
I like it. No.
I don't know what a Brat Pack is. What's it?
That's a good
what's
thing.
Brat Pack?
Well, it was like St. Elmo's Fire, Breakfast Club.
Oh, okay. Like Emilio Estevez. Is that what we're talking about? Kind of stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Good luck.
The Mighty Duck, man. Swear to God. Couple things happening lately, Brent. I want to know if you're up on it. I'm not fully up on it, but maybe
Okay.
you are. What's going on with Motley Crue? What's happening there? You following this? Is it
I'm
just
following
garbage, isn't it?
It's, you know what? I'm so tempted to say, I'm gonna hold back though.
All right. You don't have to.
No, you know
You
what?
can watch it after and I'll cut it, but go for it.
This just goes to show you, and we talked about this in our Motley Crue show, right? Our episode. Mick Mars and Tommy Lee carried that band, especially Mick Mars. And I said, before this came out, I said, you know, Bob Daisley, from the bass player from Ozzy Osbourne's band, was approached by those guys, and they said, we want to kick this guy out. You know, how do we do it? Should we do it? And he said, don't do it. They've been trying to get rid of Mick Mars since 1984. How awful is that? That guy carried them on his back. And I don't care what anybody says. You know, I was a massive Nikki Sixx fan. I never liked Vince Neil. He could never sing, right? Tommy Lee, he's a great drummer. But Mick Mars carried that band. And for those guys to disrespect him like that, Nikki Sixx, and this came out, and this is proven. He did not play a note. All of his bass lines and his like all of his bass playing was pre-recorded. The dude's a fraud. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I saw this thing today where I can't remember who it was, but they said, you know, he's like Milli Vanilli carrying an instrument. And I kind of, you know, knowing, and I wrote a little bit about this in No Sleep Till Sabri. Nikki Sixx has always been a fraud. You know, I hate to say that as a fan of Motley Crue, but like, sometimes I'm embarrassed to be a fan of that band.
It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild seeing what's happening. The arrows are being slung. Like why? For what purpose is this happening right now? Like,
Why?
I don't understand it.
Why did they even come back? You know, because I don't know if you knew about
Right.
this, but they said, well, this is our it's our farewell tour and we're done. And then, you know, they said, well, we're Motley Crue, so we don't follow any rules. And they had this stupid contract that they blew up, and they had this video, and it was just so stupid. And then they said, you know, screw that, we're going out again. And the only reason why they're going out is because they need money. That's why, right? They all probably have like 4 ex-wives each, and they need to pay alimony, and like, why? Like,
Alimony.
the thing is, like, what about your legacy, guys? Like, do Do you not think about that stuff? Like, what about your legacy?
Have they been inducted? Are they inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No, I don't think so.
Doubt it, right? I mean, maybe that wasn't a plan, but yeah, it just blows my mind, man. It's a little mind-boggling seeing what's happening with you, what's going back and forth, treating this guy like he's just done nothing. Because yeah, that was the thing that stood out to me the most about Shout at the Devil is like the riffs, man. It was great. That was the best part.
Yeah, and that was all
wild.
Him. That was all him. He came up with the band name. Yeah,
for Crew now.
John 5. Played with Manson, Rob Zombie. Good player, like great player, but
hired gun needs the money.
Totally. Same.
Yeah. Yep. Hired gun like Michael Anthony. We'll get to that in a second. Last thing.
Yeah.
Metallica's new album. Have you listened to Metallica's new album? Have you been into it yet?
Love. Yeah.
The new album, man, you do. Wow.
You know what? Even if the record was shit, I don't care. I love those guys. I love that band.
Okay.
I love what they did. 72 seasons, as you know, is like 18 times 4, like just, the years, their formative years, and how they kind of got led towards where they are now. And Hetfield is an open book, right? Like he talks about his addictions and the problems he had. And for me, a guy who followed him, from 1983, like legitimately followed him. Like my locker was James Hetfield from like top to bottom posters. I loved that guy. I was obsessed with
you
that.
Talked about sitting outside of his house at 2 a.m. just waiting, just watching. Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Cut
continue.
That part.
Sorry. Yeah. Cool. That's awesome. So yeah, you enjoy that. I've been into it. I haven't listened to all 80 minutes of it, but I've put on the first few tracks and I'm like, this is cool.
It's good.
This sounds really sounds really good for a bunch of seniors with the Shoppers Drug Mart discount right now.
Above all, I'm just happy for them.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a sentimentality there for me. And I'm happy to see that they're doing what they should be doing. And yeah, that's really, I'm happy for the dudes.
Awesome. Well, that is a different kind of truth in comparison to the way that, that Van Halen, found themselves for some years.
Like the king of that, right?
I was just listening. I was like, where can I throw this in? Where can I throw this in? Yeah.
You're just waiting for it.
So,
just waiting for that opening.
That was
you keep asking me questions and like hoping that I...
just to see. Okay, where's my end point here? Where's my end point? Hey, all right. I've had a lot of DLR lately. Okay, I'm turning myself into a showman, a schmaltzy showman.
You are.
Yeah.
I've got quite a collection of things to show you tonight. Speaking of Van Halen,
let's do it. I want to see it.
So that.
Okay. Oh, you got the CD. Great. Yeah. We saw the cassette last week.
So this is. You hear that?
Fleeter.
So, yeah, Fleeter. Riker has just been like a nightmare lately. He's like sick. He's barking. Like he was just down here. You probably heard him like walking around.
Yeah.
He's a gong show right now. Anyway, we're gonna ignore him.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've got a couple of David Lee Roth CDs.
Oh.
Like this is
wow. He did a few.
Oh, he's got like a ton. Yeah. And then there's like weird stuff like this. I don't know if people know this. This is like this thing that David Lee Roth did.
Okay. Diamond Dave.
But like, I don't know. It's just like, it's called Diamond Dave. And it's just like a bunch of like weird takes on Ice Cream Man and I don't know, Soul Kitchen. Like there's a Doors cover on that. Like it's just bizarre.
I just put a playlist together and I put Soul Kitchen by the Doors on the playlist because I was like, I need a song from the Doors and it was a Soul Kitchen that I put on. I love that song.
That's awesome.
That.
So do I.
Listen to that version.
I do. I love that song too.
It's great. Love it.
Right?
Sorry. Yeah.
All the Van Halen CDs right there.
Oh yeah.
From 1 to 84. Yeah. This is like such a nice collection, right? It's all there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was digging around, finding all this stuff. So here's the record we're going to talk about tonight. But this is the thing that I want to talk to you about tonight, and we're going to touch on this. This is where it all came from. Okay, I'm going to put this right up. I don't know if people know about this.
What is that?
See this? So
Are
look
you
at
kidding
this. This is this contains all of these songs that Van Halen cut as demos for Gene Simmons when they went to Warner Brothers. So you can see, if you look at the titles of the songs, they're all different, right? It's like Let's Go Rockin' or Let's Get Rockin'.
Yeah.
We Die Young. Like these were all, they turned into
There's
like
Little
songs
Dreamer,
like
On
Hang 'Em
Fire,
High.
DOA, Light in the Sky.
Yeah.
Which would have been what? Light the Sky in the end? Big Trouble? Oh my goodness.
Light Up the Sky.
Are you kidding me? Yeah,
Right.
Light Up the Sky, yeah.
But it's really cool. So I found this, I think like maybe 10 years ago. And it's a double record, you know. But I think like somebody just cut this, like, and they got the demos and they just made the CD themselves. Like there's no liner notes in it. There's nothing.
Are those the original Warner recordings that they did with Gene Simmons?
This is the demo.
Stop.
This is the demo plus. There's like Grunge is on here, the cover that they used to play in the bars.
Oh yeah, that was their killer. That was the thing that Roth said. It was like, what was the song that you guys would play? And he was like, LaGrange. Like that was a song that would just like they would kill. Sorry, go on.
No, that's it. Like, but it's like Big Trouble turned into, is it Big River on here? Yeah, it is Big River on here, right? So like, it's really cool because it's all on here. Like every outtake, or not every outtake, but every demo that Van Halen did, I do believe, is on this CD. Pretty cool.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because I was literally just reading that even like Eddie was, they wanted to put that album out.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to put that record out with all their demos, and he's like, I don't even know where it is. I don't know where those recordings are. And he said, you know, the internet is really the only reason why people know that there are older versions, which a lot of, as we'll talk about in this album, these songs came from, or are songs that they had written and from even like pre-78 for the album. And he's like, people only know that kind of stuff, or they only know that some of these songs that ended up on our albums were written before them because of the internet. So that's wild.
Wow. Like a lot of some of these songs were written when Eddie was in middle school.
Yeah.
Which is like ridiculous, and they're demoed in that way, you know. So the story behind the album that we're going to talk about tonight is that apparently Wolfgang Van Halen started going through the vaults and saying, Dad, so I found 3 really cool songs and I think you should put them out. And they said, well, we can't just put out 3 songs, right? Okay, well, let's like dig a little bit more and see what we can find. And I think Edward said, the more we dug, the more we found. And we just kept finding all this stuff. And so they thought, like, we have a record here. I mean, they wrote new songs too, and we'll get into that. But they had so much stuff that they thought was good enough to put out from like 1975 and 1976, like long before the band broke, which is really cool.
Insane. Yeah. And Eddie's like, when, you know, not to tout his own horn, but he's like, when you write something good and it just holds up, like you write something that far back and you write it that good. And I think that's the thing. It's like Wolfgang Van Halen is Eddie Van Halen's son, by the way, if you don't know. Yes. Wolfgang is Eddie's son. And he's like Eddie's age, picking out Eddie's songs for what they're going to do for this record.
Right.
And it's such a great... It's a great story. It's a great familial story because, and in terms of like obviously Eddie, Alex, and Wolfgang, and obviously now Roth back with the band here.
Yes.
But it's just that's why they felt it felt so good. It was because it's just it was a Van Halen, all the Van Halens.
It was
and Eddie and David. Yeah.
It was a nostalgic play, right? So apparently Edward sent the three songs to Roth and said, do you remember this? And wow, can you believe it? And he was like, wow, those songs are actually really good. Like, this is, 40 years after the fact, if not more. And they said, we should maybe think about putting these out. Maybe we could kind of patch them up a little bit and finesse them and get them out there. And this is just stuff that they forgot,
I know. Unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. Well, okay. I want to first. I need to, because I know in the last episode, I know we're 20 minutes in already, but I love this album. This was unbelievable. Good. This was like,
it's so good, right?
So good.
Yes.
There isn't a bad song on this album, so you probably know where I'm going by.
Good for you, man.
But this was I friggin' loved every single second of this album.
So glad.
There, I could just keep saying that all night. But what really I think is, like, if we could get it, like, talk about first before we get into talking about the album, is just like leading up to this, right? Mm. So the band splits. We talked about this on the Roth the David Lee Roth Even Smile episode.
Right.
Roth obviously goes off and does his thing. Van Halen has the Van Hagar era. Mm-hmm. What? Okay, I have an idea of what happened after, and I can talk a little bit more to that. But what happened with the Van Hagar era? Do you know what happened there? Was there like a fall from grace with the two of them as well? Mm-hmm. That things didn't work out, that they didn't keep things going?
Yeah. So Hagar and Edward, I think, kind of started to butt heads eventually. And I wasn't a huge follower of the band for Hagar, so I don't know. I want to say that they recorded probably 4 or 5 records, and then
that 5150, OU 812,
for unlawful carnal knowledge,
and balance.
So what is that for? And then around, I don't know, in the mid 90s, they did a soundtrack for a movie called Twister. And then
Twister?
Humans Being was the song.
It gets bumpy here, folks.
But I do believe that around that time, there was just like, between Hagar and Edward, it was just not like bad blood, right? And so Hagar left, I think, or he was asked to leave or something like that. Anyway, they split. And then around 97, 98, they approached Roth again and said, do you want to come back and do some songs? And they had something called the Best of Both Worlds, like a Van Halen kind of greatest hits. And they put 2 new songs on it that they had recorded with Roth. One of them was called Me Wise Magic, and I don't remember what the other one was called, but they weren't good. Roth had lost his kind of ability to really get up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was kind of, for Van Halen fans of the day, it was like, I remember hearing that in like 98, 99 and going, oh God, that's not good. And so it was not received well, and that went down the tubes. And then they brought Gary Cherone in from Extreme. I don't know if you know about this. And they did an album called VH3. Van Halen 3.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Which was not received well. It was terrible. Kicked Cherone out. He was there for a cup of coffee, basically. And then I think Hagar came back. And then they were out for a little while. I saw them live around this time, I think. And then Hagar left again. And then Roth came back. So it was just like this kind of crazy thing.
Yeah.
Right? Where
totally.
Yeah, it's a lot of movement.
Yeah. I didn't realize that Roth had come back for that time in the 90s there, the late 90s, and then...
Very briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like, leading up to this, obviously Eddie was going through tough stuff, and I think that was a big part as well with the whole fallout from Hagar, from what I had understood with that last tour, essentially was just, substance abuse for Eddie, and just, I guess Hagar was really touting his Cabo Wabo tequila, and Eddie was like, I can't take this, you promoting yourself for all this all the time. And yeah, it sounded like it was just really not a good again, and that's just yes, for as much as I love the music, it's kind of like, oh man, like you don't want to hear some of these stories about what's happening on the inside, because you're like, guys, you broke up the best band in the world at one point already, like because of different whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we going back here and doing this again? I mean, so obviously his alcoholism was a big part of, I think, getting in the way of some of that as well, and something that he would curb going into the creation of this album. But last sort of like really like negative thing I want to touch on, because I still love this band, I still love this music, but what they did to Michael Anthony again, like through this whole thing, blows my mind. They basically kicked him. He basically was always kind of put in the middle of these fights between Eddie and Alex and Hagar. And even Hagar will tell you, he's like, these were like some of the worst like times. These were some like the most backstabbing things that I've seen. And unfortunately, Anthony was always in there. And they actually took songwriting away from Anthony. They took away money from him. I mean, and he was just kind of like, yeah, all right. And I know you've talked about Michael Anthony sort of being kind of lost in all of this, and it's like they kind of did it to him, which like again blows my mind that they would do this to him. But I think there's a lot more, substance wise that really played in with what happened. But it kind of crazy. I think that happened actually back by 1980, the release of 1984. They were trying to take royalties away from Michael Anthony for those albums.
Well, the thing is, like when they started, Templeman approached them. We talked about this before. Templeman approached them and says, "How do you want to divide the publishing? Like who writes the songs?"
Right.
And Roth up front said, "All four,
all
split
4
4 ways."
Yeah.
And Templeman said, "Hang on, it's not going to be like that. There's going to be someone who doesn't contribute, because that's just how it goes, right? If you do, good on you. But if you don't, this is going to be, a bee in someone's bonnet down the line." And they said, "Nope, 4 ways, 4 brothers, 4 ways." And it was like, okay. And sure enough, Anthony was pointed out as one of the people who he didn't contribute, right? I don't know how much Alex Van Halen contributed to the songwriting, but Anthony was like singled out as the guy who did not contribute, and he didn't pull his weight apparently. And this is, again, I don't agree with this stuff, but it's just like, get rid of this guy. And it was almost like he was kind of a scapegoat. He was a man without a country, right? Because Roth was Roth. The Van Halen brothers were the Van Halen brothers. And he was like in the middle. So like, what could he really do? And when Hagar came in, it was the same thing. So Anthony was like in this really tough spot. And Eddie just kind of trained his fury on him and said, you can't play. I'm teaching you all your bass parts. I don't know if all that stuff is true. I hope it's not. I love Eddie Van Halen, but he got the short end of the stick. Anthony did. He seems like a really, really nice guy.
I was thinking that, and I'm sure he still is. Michael, if you're watching this, I believe you probably still are. And then I heard, okay, so I'm not saying this is all like he deserved to do this, but then I heard that while Eddie was in rehab, so leading up to the release of this album or in this tour with David Lee Roth, Eddie checks himself into rehab, gets himself clean from alcoholism and all of that kind of thing. While he's in rehab, the Rock Hall calls and says, "We're going to induct you guys into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame."
Right.
David Lee Roth and obviously Alex Van Halen say, out of respect for Eddie, who can't be there because he's in rehab, no, we're not going to show up. Do you know who showed up, Brent?
No, he did not.
Michael Anthony and Sammy Hagar showed up to accept Van Halen's induction.
True?
Yeah.
We'd like to induct Sammy Hagar, David Lee Roth, Eddie Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, and Michael Anthony.
First off, I'd like to say God bless you to Edward Van Halen. I wish you were here, buddy. You couldn't be here tonight. He's home getting some help, and I love you, man.
And that was when Eddie was like, that's the last straw for me. Like, you guys are going to show up and accept the Rock Hall induction on our behalf. Like,
Oh wow.
what?
I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah. And that's when I was kind of like, all right, Michael Anthony, I know you've been through some shit. I get it. But you know what? You guys going out there and doing that, I was like, back on the Van Halen train, baby.
It's weird that other people would have thought to like approve that. That just seems so unusual.
Well, yeah.
Like
Right.
Edward especially, but like even Alex not being there, like that seems very odd that they would have actually let them go.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I wanted to bring that forward in a little more of an informative session. What I love absolutely about this album is how it seems like, and Eddie says this himself, is like, I've known Roth since high school. When we got back together, it was like nothing changed. You know, things were like, we picked up conversations again. You know, it was great to be talking with him again. And he's like, his lyrics are hilarious and they're great. And, you know, everything is so good. And I know these aren't all new songs, but you know, he just the way that they came together, and just like everything was out the window. It was like, you know, Roth would like give him compliments out, like, you know, oh, the way you played that solo was great. It was almost like, you know, you grow up, you get beyond where they were at, and it's like they kind of realized that what they were doing, they appreciated more, that they could be doing that together again. And that's, I think, the feeling that I got through this whole record as well.
And sadly, even more so, I think that when, you know, Edward passed away, Roth was really hit with that reality of like, wow, like it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
And he, on this record, he's almost like a wistful kind of curator of Van Halen, you know? I always kind of saw Roth in that way, and I see him even more in that way now. He's like kind of the curator of the Van Halen history, and he's the storyteller, you know, and the keeper of the keys and stuff like that. But he's a sentimental guy, you know? And, yeah, it's a shame that all this stuff happened between the two of them, you know? But this, I'm so glad that you like this record, because it is a good record. There's a lot of good stuff on here. And I'll tell you something else, actually. Eddie never played like he played with David Lee Roth. There's something about when you hear these solos, like he plays in a different way when Roth is around. I don't know what it is, but like on all the Hagar records, I don't know them super well, but I know them. And obviously Sharon and stuff like that. But like when Roth is around, Eddie's a different beast. I will say that on record.
Yeah. I mean, you know, not that he wasn't doing this before. It was interesting to hear what he had to say about some of those records. He felt, I think, like 5150, for example, was like the most pure Van Halen record that they'd ever written and recorded.
See, I don't agree with that.
Right? And he felt like Balance. He's like, there were some great, like, people didn't like that. He's like, I felt like some of our greatest stuff, you know. So he kind of always had this feeling of what he was doing and always doing was, you know, something great, which I think is a very positive mindset to have in like kind of anything you do, if you want to look at this from like an inspirational you know, point of view.
Keep in mind too, I think that, you know, it's tough for Eddie Van Halen to have a lot of perspective because you're Eddie Van Halen, right? So like for someone like us to hear his entire, you know, catalog in front of us and say, okay, so yeah, that's good. And be able to kind of form dialogue around it. He can't do that because he's playing, he's inside it. He can't really form a proper perspective of like, you know, I mean, this is my best work, this is my worst work, whatever. But it's different for us because he's in front of us. He's inside himself. He doesn't have that kind of luxury of real perspective. You know what I mean? So if he's playing on Balance and he's saying, this is my best work yet, I don't know if that's like, you know, a completely, I mean, it's his perspective and it's legit, But I don't think people would necessarily think that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a
I don't
good
think
point.
people would see
It's a
it
good
that
point.
way.
Yeah. Well, we went even longer before getting into the album this week, fully. So we can,
We had like 35 minutes right now.
35 minutes.
Oh God.
But I think with an album like this, it really is very much about the lead up. I think very much it's about the story surrounding it, before it, within it, the songs within here. Like let's start going through a few of them. But
Yeah.
this entirety, like the fact that you're able to put. I think these are songs, again, we said pre-1978, pre-1975.
Yep.
They bring in Wolfgang, his son, to play bass, who is like honestly like already like just becomes a wizard on an instrument at such a young age within
So good.
months.
Yep.
And honestly started taking over, not even taking over, right, but really having authority in decision making on this album.
Mm-hmm.
The tracks that were picked, how some tracks were composed, and working with the producer John Shanks, was it John Shanks on this?
I don't know who it
producer or
was.
something like that.
I am not
And yeah, and just like you kind of like asserting is like, this is what we should be doing at, like, I don't know, 16 or 17 years old. And Eddie, the respect Eddie has for him, and I'm not saying this like shocking a son, his father has respect for his son, but for somebody like Eddie, who's always been in the music industry for so long, who could be just like, son, you should listen to the producer, and really, he's just like, I'm going to leave you two to do this.
It's crazy, right?
We'll see what happens when I get back.
And wow.
So cool.
And
so
wow,
cool
did
for
it
the
work
first
out.
time. Wow, did it work out. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I've seen people talk about this being the best Van Halen album.
You could make a case.
You could.
If you frame it, if you frame it in a certain way, you could make a case for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. Tattoo kicks it off, and it's friggin' fantastic.
So there were, I think, 7 songs. I don't know how many songs are on this record. Like 12. So 7 of the 12, I believe, were from the vault, right? Tattoo was one of those. It was, and some of them are just like little bits that were used. So this was like from an old 77 tune called Down in Flames, I think, right? There was a little bit that was used to create Tattoo. But like, what a great kickoff to the record, right?
So awesome. Oh yeah, you get the well, obviously you get Eddie back with DLR, and you get just this great the feeling again, the fun feeling of everything, the way that Roth just like, so very autobiographic. You're just kind of like, yeah, like, yeah.
Oh, totally.
Oh, it's so great, just how he does anything. I gushed about Roth in the last episode, and I'll continue here. He's great.
Oh, I'm so, see, again, I'm going to take just a moment to say I'm so glad that you appreciate David Lee Roth for what and who he is.
Yeah.
Because he is an entertainer,
yeah,
and he's an icon, right?
Oh yeah.
If you like him, if you don't like him, it doesn't matter. Like, he is a monumental figure in all of this, and I'm so glad
like he's overlooked.
that you recognize this.
Is he overlooked now? I feel like we don't talk about. I feel like he's just kind of like, nobody knows about him anymore.
Well,
I feel like if you go up and ask somebody, like, David Lee Roth is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Me neither.
It's tough because like he gets lumped in with other people, But
yeah,
so
good.
I love him. I respect him, and I admire him.
Yeah. One of our viewers here, Mike, was asking, what it would be like. What would David Lee Roth be like once he puts the showman, sort of like his self away? Like, what would he be like? Talking to him, like, just face to face. Once he puts that stuff aside, and how do you think he would be? And I was like, honestly, I think he would be. I love him so. I think he would be the greatest person ever, and that's why I could never meet him. because I do not want to be proven wrong that I think he would just be the coolest, like, awesome, most awesome person to talk to.
You know what? When you, I'll say this, when you love these people as much as I do, and in my formative years, like I really glommed onto these people, right? And that kind of, I dare say, it gives you license to judge them, you know? And so you're so far into them that you judge them in a way that you say, well, you know, he shouldn't be doing this or he shouldn't be doing that. And there's almost like this weird kind of ownership because you feel like you kind of have a possession of them, which you don't, right? But you feel like you do. You feel like you've afforded yourself that license. And I feel like that with David Lee Roth. And I've seen him in interviews where I say, he's a brilliant motherfucker. Like the stuff that this guy, like, I don't know where this comes from. You know, he's a raconteur like nobody else. But then I say, well, he's embarrassing himself by acting like a fucking ding dong. And, you know, he says this and this and this and this. At the end of the day, he's a brilliant human being.
Yeah. Yep.
When you listen to him, and even still, he's been on Joe Rogan recently, and the breadth of knowledge and intellect that David Lee Roth possesses, you have to respect that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. No, I absolutely. That's why I just feel like he'd be so cool, man. I don't know. That's why I can't meet him. I just can't.
He would blow your mind.
Yeah,
he truly would. And you remember that game, Alex, where you said, like, you know, who are the 5 people at your dinner party?
Okay.
David Lee Roth would be one of those guys, right?
Has to be.
You'd want him at the table,
hands down.
You know, like
absolutely.
He would. I don't know if I'd want anybody else at the table. I could listen to that guy tell stories all night. You know, when he puts it on, there's just a little bit of vaudeville still with Dave. But
of course,
there's so much.
That's why you want him there.
Well, but there's so much stuff, so much cake inside that icing, right? That you would just want him to keep talking. The guy became an EMT just because he wanted to see what it was like. Do you know what I mean? Like he lived in Japan and learned the language and learned the culture just because he wanted to. Like he lives life. Like he's a special person.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So awesome. She's the woman. Right?
1976, man. Yeah.
Oh, man.
This, when you hear this guitar riff, Alex, you know instantly that this is Eddie. And you also know that this came from the 70s because it bangs.
100%, man. This was a totally Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2 track. Like this was so cool to hear.
And I think this is. I'm looking at the CD now. This is definitely on here. I wish we could play this like on the show. There are
me too.
42 songs on this thing. But like this is definitely on there. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to this now at some point.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna come over and we're gonna listen to it, or I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna steal it, and then I'm gonna listen to it and never give it back, and you will think that you lost it. Yeah, that would be great. Where'd it go? I don't know where it is. I haven't seen it since Alex has been here. Well, anyways, She's a Woman's great. I just like. It's just classic, man. This is what you think of when you think of Van Halen. It's a song like this.
Yeah, totally. This is like this is penultimate kind of Van Halen for me, right? This is classic. Oh, yeah. Like that guitar riff is like, oh my god, this is it, man. I love it. When I heard this, I remember hearing this in 2012 when this record came out, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they left this in the vault.
Well, I can't believe they left. There's a frig. Yeah. Look, I know you wouldn't give me bad albums to listen to, but I was so skeptical when you told me to listen to this album.
Seriously?
That came out from Van Halen in 2012. Well, I was kind of like, what? What am I gonna get here? Like, is this
wouldn't steer
really
you wrong,
good?
Man.
Well, I thought maybe you were trying to prove a point. Bands should never get back together in 2012.
Oh yeah, it was an example of
maybe
something
it was an
gone
example.
wrong.
Yeah, could have been that. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay, let's try this. This is a band I love from the 70s that are trying to do something in 2012 after like generally doesn't go too well. So anyways, cool, good. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. And it's been so great. You and Your Blues. What do you know about this tune?
So what I was going to say about the only knock that I had on this record when I first heard it was that it sounded like a David Lee Roth solo album, and those sound quite different from Van Halen classic records, right? So this is like Van Halen's. What do I know? This is his.
David Lee Roth,
right?
Okay,
it's this one. But if you listen to something like, and this came out in '91. A Little Ain't Enough. Like this is just pure Roth and like some guitar player. It's not even Vai anymore. It's just some dude, right?
Okay.
But Roth had a completely different sound than Van Halen, like classic Van Halen did. And You and Your Blues sounds like that. And so I thought, oh, is this like a Roth song that he brought into the band? I don't know. Sounds like it to me. Until you hit the chorus of this. And then you hear that backing vocal, like, right? And you're like, oh, that's the Van Halen that I know and love, right?
Yeah. This song actually sounded like early 2000s. This sounded like an early 2000s song.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't much, like the chorus once he got there and he started singing it, yeah, like the backing vocals agreed. But overall, this felt like they were kind of like, they were in it at the time, like the band music that was coming out in 2000s. This feels like that. Your bad news permanent. Like it just felt like a 2000s kind of like pop punky type of tune. So
yes, exactly. And I think that was on purpose.
Yeah. I think they do it well. I'm kind of like, you didn't do a bad job of this. I'm singing to it, and I love where you go after that.
So you know what's really cool about that is that that's a wide palette, right? Like I introduced you to old Van Halen when we first started, and you were like, okay, I have a taste for this. This is great. We didn't look at Van Hagar at all. Right. So you had a taste for, that old stuff. So for you to listen to a song like You and Your Blues, you could have said, this is not good, right?
This is good. Yeah.
But
no. 100%.
Good for you. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
it's great, man. Solos, killer.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
It's so back, good.
Man. You missed it. You missed it. Chinatown.
Oh my God, Alex Van Halen on this, right? The drums.
Oh yeah,
unrelenting. So I was listening, for example, to Hang 'Em High today, okay, from Diver Down. And like Alex on the kit is just like, when you listen, primarily you listen to Eddie, then you listen to Dave, right? Then maybe you listen to Alex. You probably listen to Mike last, I'm afraid. That's the way that it is. But like Alex is typically third. But like, listen to that drum track. He is just like, he's unrelenting, right? It's like he never takes a break. It's like there's always something to listen to. This is very similar. Chinatown is like unrelenting drums. Amazing Alex Van Halen moment.
It is. It sounds fantastic, and I don't know how much, because I tried to go through 5150 for Unlawful Cardinal Knowledge and OU 812, and a lot of the drums feel very electronic, and I think that he recorded a lot of electronic drums for those albums. And not to say that there wasn't real drums on there, but like having gone through some of those and listening to how sort of treated they felt in comparison to the way that the drums came out on this one, and hey, maybe I'm wrong, maybe these are electric, I don't know, but it just felt like so good, that his drumming through this album.
Yeah, he's a monster. That started on 1984 when the drums really kind of developed this new kind of almost electronic-y sound, and I didn't care for that either.
Yeah, because
I just it's not that kind of ragged feel that you got from like Hang 'Em High and everything before that. So I'm not super in favor of that, but yeah, this is a return for sure. Blood and Fire is another tune, I think that's an old one, right? And it's on this record. It's called, like, it was, what was it, like Ripley or something like that? What's the story behind
is that this one? Ripley is Blood and Fire. Yeah.
It's 1984, I think, and it's like Eddie Van Halen did something for was it a movie or something like that? I don't know the exact story, but anyway, that's where there's a bit in this song.
Which movie? Because I heard Eddie did music for a porno. So you're talking about that one?
No, he didn't.
Yeah, Sacred Sin.
Did he really?
Yeah, he composed music for an adult film.
Come on. Really?
Yeah, in this little valley between, within like the touring that stopped before Roth joined again. And
oh, jeez, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah, he had a divorce and then scored a porno. So, wow. Okay, not the point. Okay, good. So, Blood and Fire was Ripley. It's cool. It's a good tune. It's a good song. Again, like, it just feels so good. Like, it's a little bit different. Something like Blood and Fire, You and Your Blues, right? Again, like I said, like, even Blood and Fire feels a little more 2000s-ish.
Yes.
At times. But then you get into, like, some of these little cool spots where, like, there's a little picking and, like, it still brings it all back to what they truly are.
Yeah. And this is where kind of, I talked about Eddie Van Halen, or not Eddie Van Halen, sorry, David Lee Roth having a duality, right? He's that kind of schmaltzy showman, like, but then there's like an underlying kind of anger, right? We talked about that, with his book. You hear that in the song, the lead up to the solo. He's like, I told you I'd be back, and it's almost like he's taunting people. He's like, you challenged me, and it's like, don't question me kind of thing.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So you see a different side of Roth. You feel this aggression that you might not have realized was there before.
And I love that. I'm not sure what it's in. I couldn't tell you right now. But when he does this kind of like, he starts talking to you kind of like this in the middle of a song. And then he'll bring it back to singing the song after he's finished talking to you.
That's right.
Kind of like this. And you're just kind of like, what's up? What's up, Roth? I love that.
Oh, absolutely, you like that? He's like,
yeah.
I
thought it was so cool.
Whisper talks a little bit.
Oh yeah, but it was kind of like it's sort of like his evolution as like before he would kind of do these funny, jokey things in the studio. Now it's kind of like, hey, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, that's the evolution of David Lee Roth, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny because when I heard that, I'm like, do I like that? But I do. In retrospect, I do like that.
Yeah,
I do, because there has to be an evolution, right? It can't always be about like, you'll get some leg tonight for sure.
Yeah, right.
Like the young drunk David Lee Roth. Like, this is kind of an evolution. So you have to, you gotta deal with it.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I remembered what he said. I should have wrote it down. It's like, did you say you played the game?
You want to play the game? You can't quit when you get played.
I can't remember what it is.
Yeah, let's just spend the rest of the episode trying to figure out what he said. It's something about Trouble plays the game. Isn't that what Trouble said? I don't know. Fuck it. Whatever. But
Whatever.
Bullethead, great. Another great too.
Love. This is an old one too, right?
Yes.
So this is like straight from the vaults. Yeah, and you can tell like this is a dirty song. It's so good.
This is like an on fire type of a track.
Yeah, it is actually. It totally is. It's like it's almost punky, like the way that like an Atomic Punk or an On Fire 100%. Is, right? Yeah. I think this was like, they might have held this off the records because it sounded too much like those songs, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair to say.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
What happens at the beginning of As Is? Who's yelling? That's got to be Alex. Someone's yelling.
I don't know. This maybe. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Part of this was developed from what is it? 2 burritos and a root beer float or something that he did. He did this. again, Eddie, like he did the porn stuff, like he said, but he wrote for TV a little bit. Like everybody was always tapping him on the shoulder saying, hey, can you collaborate on this? Or do you want to contribute to that? And he would very rarely say no, I think. And he had this bit called 2 burritos and a root beer float that I believe, I know, right? That was kind of made into As Is. There's a part in the song, that was that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like an old idea he had.
Cool.
Yeah.
It just made me realize actually the beginning of As Is, it's probably Alex Van Halen.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Because he's counting in. Who else did that? Who, what, one, and what, and starts like this. And then the song kicks in.
Oh, Bonham from Zeppelin.
Exactly.
What was that thing?
We've done 4 already, but now we're steady and then they win. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, who was a big Zeppelin fan? Alex Van Halen. So I literally just kind of came to that because
That's
I was
funny.
thinking about it. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm like, that's probably a Bonham, just him channeling a Bonham thing. I don't know for sure, folks, but I'm just thinking, like, when I hear that, I was like, that's probably where he got the idea from.
You know what's really cool about that? I've noticed that you pick up on stuff that I completely missed. No, like similarities.
Yeah.
So you'll say, "Hey, I hear this in this," and I'm like, "What?" And then you play them together, and I'm like, "Holy fuck!"
Talking about money for nothing.
Yeah. So maybe this is one of those times. I don't know.
I could be. Well, because it sounded familiar when he was yelling. I was like, that sounds like John Bonham. But then I realized that he's a huge Zeppelin fan and inspired by them. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe those are the two. Anyways,
Probably.
it's cool.
In this song, I like when Roth says, okay, this next part's going to be tricky. Everybody stay focused, or whatever he says, right? Okay, everybody. He's talking, like, I love that Roth does that stuff.
It's
like
the best stuff, man.
Right? It's just, that's Roth. And I love that.
It is. And you know what? When I heard that they did something on TV, maybe it was for Kimmel too, actually.
It was.
And he broke it. He smacked himself in the nose with a baton.
Yes.
And David Lee Roth came out with a baton. This is part of their whole PR thing for them too. And hit himself in the nose where they were bleeding. And I guess any other time, back in the day, they probably would have been pissed about this, but they kind of just laughed it off.
Yeah.
And it was just a different, again, outlook, I feel like, on life at this point.
Yes.
As there should be.
Yes.
Unlike a band like Motley Crue, these guys could come back and laugh at things like this.
See, that's the thing between, a lion doesn't have to tell you it's a lion, right? That's all I'll say about that.
Amen. It's great.
Yeah.
Hello, baby sweetie doll. Honey baby sweetie doll, sorry.
Yeah, this is cool. So you can hear David Lee Roth's dog bark.
Stop.
In that little break where the music stops, and then you hear like really quick.
Oh, I missed it. See, I didn't listen that closely enough.
And then everything stops, and you hear.
That's the trouble with never.
Good song. See, that's an original. They wrote that together, I believe. Yeah, and that kind of sounds like it's new. It's got a new sound. Yeah. But it's good.
It does. It's funny. It's true. Like when you listen even to the guitar, it feels like an early, it feels like a 2000s sort of lead guitar riff too. Like even when you start listening to bands, even like a Malmsteen as well, from in that era of writing music and making music, it's the guitar sound of that time too. So
yeah, totally.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Out of Space.
This is my favorite song from this record.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
It's like pure and classic Van Halen. That speedy
100%.
riff is like it like throws you out of your chair. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Oh, It's and this is this is Let's Get Rockin'. So on this record, the first song.
Okay, yeah.
Can you see it there?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, right at the top. You bet.
There you go.
Let's Get Rockin'.
That's Outer Space.
And I love that Wolfgang went back and was the one to find these songs too, and help bring them back, revive them, and be like, we got to do these songs. Because I think what they wanted to do with this was do some new songs on the first side, and then the other side was going to be B-sides.
Yes, that's right.
Or older B-sides or something like that, or
deep
cuts.
cuts.
Yeah, and then we're going to call it the B's or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to. I think Eddie was not a fan of the hits. Like he was a fan of the deep cuts, and he thought they didn't get enough attention and stuff like that. And so I think that was the original direction, right? Is that he wanted to draw attention to like the deeper cuts. So he was going to put like Out of Love and stuff like that on this record and rework it. And then they started digging, and they were like, "Holy crap! We have a lot of stuff here." So, it just took up the whole record eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about Wolfgang and his involvement in this, the creation of the album, picking the songs and some of the composing. Stay Frosty is Wolfgang. It originally started out with Roth on the guitar, so it is Roth on the guitar, and Wolfgang's idea to say, let's kick it in the way that it does.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
It's cool, eh?
It's unbelievable. This is my favorite song on the album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
Song. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, this is everything, right? This is everything. It's the acoustic. It's Roth playing the acoustic at the beginning. It's a great it's Roth giving his little monologue, and it's his character and everything.
Truth reflecting, my advice is free. There's a trick to Christian values, and it's compulsory. Stay frosty.
And then out of nowhere, it's like, stay frosty. And you're just like, whoa.
Oh, I know.
And even Roth can't help but go, whoa!
Yeah,
and you're just like Ric Flairing with them, and you're just like, yes. So I love Tattoo starts it off. Yeah. I honestly think this could have started the album off too.
Yeah, maybe. But I kind of, if I was doing the tracking for this record, I kind of would have kept this one back to just pop it. Because
it's a fair point.
Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's got that great little start, like you say, but then it's like, boom. And it's so
that's why I was like, if this started out right, this is the first album they're back together, putting out these older stuff, and you kind of get this, like Ice Cream Man, Take Your Whiskey Home opener, and you're kind of like, oh, that's cool. Oh, there we go. And then all of a sudden it's like the band's back, and that's the kick in. Yeah. And he gives his whoop, and you're kind of like, they're back.
They're back.
Yeah. So that's why I felt it, but I have no problem with sequencing on this album. I think this album is actually very well sequenced.
I totally agree. Wolfgang wanted She's the Woman to be the first single, and the rest of the band wanted Tattoo to be the first single, and he got voted out. Oh. But I agree with Wolfgang. And I maybe would have started the album with She's the Woman.
Yeah, Big River.
Love. Another old tune. This is Big Trouble.
This is Big Trouble. Okay.
Where is Big Trouble?
Well, isn't that funny how Big Trouble on there is also your favorite song from David Lee Roth?
Yes, I know. See, it's number 19 on the
number 19 of the 47 track.
Yeah. That is funny. And Big Trouble from this little number right here.
Great song.
I wonder if that is a coincidence.
Must be.
I wondered about that. I don't know.
Maybe he just wanted to write a song then, or call it Big Trouble at least. So.
Well, it's funny because Big Trouble is not ever mentioned in the song Big Trouble on Eat 'Em and Smile.
Fair.
I don't believe, is it? No.
A lot of great. It feels like older influence too. 70s, early 70s, late 60s influence on this song. Like in terms of the way that it's put together. Just even that chorus, Big River rolling.
Yep.
It's just super cool.
Oh, and Roth is like he's a Stax Motown student, right? Like he loves all that stuff. And that's the other thing about Roth is that like if he talked music to you, you would want to be there for a week because he gives you all the goods, right? And stuff like, you know, people talk about Sam Cooke and like all the people you know, but like he would be dropping names that you're like, what?
No idea. Yeah.
And he knows
like
all.
John D. Loudermilk.
Right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Right.
So,
he knows all that stuff, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Album finishes off with Beats Working.
Love it. Another old tune. 70s groove, man.
Yeah.
Love.
It's great.
It's
great.
Absolutely love.
This is a great album. This is 110%, 5 out of 5. Do not tell me otherwise.
I want you to give this a 6 out of 5.
I'm going to give it a 6 out of 5, actually. You're
I'm
right.
going to see 6 Alex heads.
I'm going to put 6 up there for you.
I'm so glad that you like this.
Man, I'm so glad I like it too. Again, I was worried. I was like, what am I getting into here?
It's not the best.
I know that Van Halen 3 wasn't well received. Yeah. Friggin' Rennie says that his favorite Van Halen album is for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. That's his favorite Van Halen album. So,
oh my.
Yeah. Hey, Rennie, baby.
We need to
run
talk.
Some shit there.
Rennie,
right?
we need to have a chat.
We need to have a chat. So, fantastic, man. Love this album.
I'm so
sorry, folks.
So glad.
Longer episode than usual, but you know what? When we get talking Van Halen, I don't think there's anywhere else to go. We could go on. We could keep going.
Totally.
I could keep talking Van Halen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Forever
it's
and ever.
Van Halen to me is one. It's a small number of bands that I feel like I feel like I know these dudes. I know it's a ridiculous concept, but the emotional investment you make in this music and in these bands is reflective of the fact that you feel like you know them and you want to celebrate that. You know,
Absolutely.
And that's what we do here, and that's why the show took so long, because like it's a celebration of great artistry.
It is 100%. I also had to ask you about Motley Crue and Metallica at the top. So
not a celebration of great artistry.
Not there.
Not
Metallica, yes.
Or not
Crue.
Metallica, yes. Motley Crue, no.
Yeah, not Motley Crue, but it's awesome. Okay, man. So how do we follow this one up? What are you thinking here?
Now we are going to conclude. That was a little bit of a tangent, but we're going to conclude our 80s run now.
Okay.
And we are not going to conclude it with Poison.
Okay,
we don't
fair.
need to talk about Poison.
Fine.
We're going to conclude it with Def Leppard, Hysteria.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you sure? I mean, I liked Pyromania.
I want you to hear this record, but again, like this is kind of we're going down a path, right?
Okay, right, the path. Follow the path.
Yeah. So this
Follow
is like
the
the
Yellow Brick
last
Road.
record of the 80s that, and we could look at others, but I don't feel like it's worth our time to look at certain records in the 80s, because the 80s got really, really silly or really like ridiculous kind of, it just got to be too much. And that's where the 90s came from. Like it was like the pendulum just swung back the other way because it went too far this way.
Okay. All right.
Def
so we'll
Leppard
conclude
did
the
not
80s.
do that. This is just kind of a goodbye to the 80s for me. This is kind of a wink and a nod and like a, you know, good on you. And this is a fantastic record. You really, I feel like you're gonna like this, but like it's worth talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Let's do it.
Def Leppard, Hysteria. Okay. Ready for it.
All right. There's lots to talk
so.
about. It's a good record. Lots of lore.
I want to end this incredibly long episode with one thing. I want to let you know.
What?
You'll never. So
You have an STD?
I went. No, I stopped driving. I stopped driving a standard when my wife got an automatic. So no, I don't have an STD. My parents watched the show. I can't say that, right? Damn it, Brent. No, okay. So I went back. I've been listening to some great albums that we've been talking about. We've talked, you know what? Even Electric by the Cult. I went back and listened to a little bit. Yeah. Electric Ocean, so good.
Good.
One album in particular, one of the very first albums we ever did, I went back and I listened to.
Okay. Can I guess the band?
Yeah.
I know we don't have a lot of time. Aerosmith.
Correct.
Toys in the Attic.
Uh-huh. You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I went back and listened to this. You'll never guess. You're great. You're great.
That's
You'll
so
see if you can guess
amazing.
this. I'm going to make this really
I'm not
easy
amazing.
on
It's
you.
just amazing that I was able to guess that. That's really
you
cool.
nailed it because I put on a certain song from that album because after all of the listenings that we've done, I was like, maybe I've been a little too hard on this one track from Toys in the Attic. I should take a listen to it one more time now that I'm a little more well-versed in the music world.
Right.
In the era that we've been, eras we've been exploring.
Okay.
I love Round and Round. Wow. I put it on and I was like, what was wrong with me? I was shitting on Round and Round like crazy. I listened to it. I'm like, this is a jam.
Right.
So I just want to put it out there. I thought you'd be like, a little proud of me. I was like, this song is great. Yeah. I didn't appreciate it for what it is, I think I do now. So
let that be a lesson to everyone who is a naysayer. Go back and listen.
Do it.
Yes.
I mean,
listen with an
awesome.
open mind.
Yep, 100% completely agree. So
that's so
I just
cool.
wanted to let you know that I was like, wow, Round and Round.
And can I just say that was the spark that started the Thursday Night Record Club show, as a matter of fact, because Andy Curran, all those episodes ago, you said to me, Andy Curran was on a show and he brought this song in by Aerosmith called Round and Round, I think it's called, because you heard it and you were like, Aerosmith has like before the 80s they had albums too, and I was like, what?
Yes,
and that's how this show started, as a matter of
100%.
fact. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, absolutely, man. So look at us.
Hey, look at us.
Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought?
Not me.
I don't know. I just thought it was fantastic. I couldn't believe it. So.
That's so great. So great. I love it.
Yep. Had to tell you.
Love it.
I had to tell you on here. So
that's so awesome.
Great, man. Okay, so I have Def Leppard Hysteria to go and listen to, and we will conclude the 80s for now. Maybe we'll come back to the 80s. I don't know.
We might.
There's
no rule saying we can't, but
it's correct.
I have some other things planned for you.
Can't wait.
Maybe we'll be back. Maybe we won't. We'll see.
Someone mentioned Joy Division. Is Joy Division on your list?
No.
Good.
No.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week.